Hey there, my friend. In this video, we'll talk about 11 signs of the awakened people pleaser who have started healing his people pleasing tendency. I have this inspiration to create a couple of videos on people pleasers because through my journey, like all my life, I've been a people pleaser and I've realized so many things about this, how it's not really a healthy, like way to be around others and to tend towards others. And I've also realized some really powerful ways to heal people pleasing. So in this video, I'll share a little bit of my story and then explain to you what are these 11 signs and how you can start letting them go. Now, that being the case, let's directly get into the topic. Hey there, I am Daniel, a relationship alignment coach and a creator of the Soulful Relationships Experience. This is a one-on-one coaching program helping people who experience codependent, narcissistic, power struggle, toxic relationship dynamics, let them go, set up healthy boundaries in place, create a vision of how they want to experience their relationships, and in the span of just 3 to 4 months, surround themselves with only people who support and lift them up. So if this sounds curious, if you're curious about how this program works, you can always check out the free training I have in which I share the 3 phases you need to master to start attracting only people who support and lift you up. Or you can schedule a free relationship alignment call where we can connect one-on-one and I can share with you how this works and maybe support you along your path. Now, what is my story? Well, basically, all my life I've been an empath, and eventually I realized I was a people pleaser. I always cared about others. I always seek their validation and approval. I always behaved in such a way to meet the expectations of everybody around me. And so I even had this moment in my life in which I was basically going out with 3 different social circles which had different values. And when I was in one of the social circles, I behaved one way to meet the expectations of everybody in that social circle about me. Then when I went out to the second social circle, I was a completely different person because I needed to meet the expectations of the people here. And then eventually I realized that I didn't have any stable center within myself. I realized that I was also resentful because didn't other people didn't really respect me or see me as worthy. And I started feeling a lot of burnout because I was trying to always care for others, always meet their expectations, always stand for their needs, and I was abandoning myself for such a long time. Then eventually, throughout my journey and through staying with those feelings that were consistently being triggered when I was meeting the expectations of everybody and then feeling unfulfilled at the end of the day. And so by staying with these feelings and contemplating, reflecting back on my life, I eventually realized that, well, if I'm a people pleaser, and if there are other people pleasers, and if my purpose as a people pleaser is to please others, and if other people pleasers, their purpose would be to please me and other people in their life, well, if this happens, if this happens now, what would be possible if instead of me only pleasing others, I also started pleasing myself? And so I've had this discovery that maybe if I start speaking my needs, if I start speaking my boundaries, if I start speaking what I don't tolerate, what is it that I want from others, like what I'm able to provide and give back in return, I could experience more fulfillment, greater intimacy and emotional connection and depth with the people around me instead of assuming that they should treat me the way this way, like giving me greater acceptance, emotional connection, intimacy, like being there to ask me how I am instead of only me doing that. And if I ask for that, well, then maybe this way I could also please my own needs the way I please the needs of others. And this shifted my life completely. But before this happened, I started recognizing these signs within me. Like before I embarked on this healing journey and then connected with my boundaries and needs and started surrounding myself with people who also care for me the way I care for them. So there is this mutually beneficial relationship ongoing. Before that happened, I discovered one after another a lot of signs of my people pleasing tendencies. And today, actually, I want to share with you a couple of them, like 11 signs, 11 inner signs that you notice when you're an awakening people pleaser. Because, truth be told, some of the things that I will share, they wouldn't they wouldn't sound really like empowering, but the moment you acknowledge them within yourself is the moment when you can start taking responsibility. And this, my friend, is my genuine wish and hope for you in this video. So starting with the first one, I realized that a lot of people pleasers are really anxious around others. And this was true always for me, because like in the past, because when I was around others, I always felt anxious within myself because my focus was always on the outside. And I was always thinking, like, does this person accept me? Does this person accept me? Am I doing something unacceptable? Am I meeting and being acting in alignment with their expectations of me? Do they approve of me? So I was always thinking and like trying to be so perfect for everybody that I always felt anxious. And then the moment I realized that, I was like, okay, well, maybe instead of thinking so much, I could stay with the feelings in my body a little bit more. I could stay centered with how I feel. Then I realized that, well, I have low self-worth. Like a lot of people pleasers, that's why they want to please others, because their self-worth is dependent on the acceptance that other people have or don't have towards them. And so our hope, like the hope of a people pleaser, is that if I can make others accept me, if I meet their expectations, if I am the person they want me to be, and they feel comfortable around, then and only then I will feel worthy. So I realized I have a lack of self-worth, a low self-worth. And then I started taking responsibility of that. So another sign is that, well, maybe you're really resentful. And again, this is something that I noticed within myself, because here is how it operates. And all of these signs, they're interconnected. They're like models of behavior, you also realize. Like, I was really resentful because as much as I tried to act in alignment with the expectations of everybody around me, all these different social circles that I was going out with, when people didn't have the same attitude towards me, the same behavior towards me, I was feeling offended, and I started feeling resentful, and I was consistently feeling resentful. And when this resentment started stacking up, because I was expecting other people to treat me like better, since I was pleasing their needs and their desires, and I was doing everything I can to fit in the image they have of who they want me to be, so that they feel comfortable, the more of these resentful feelings stuck on top of each other that I felt to different people in my life, eventually I started burning out. It was like, and this is something that keeps happening even at this stage in my life sometimes. Like when I'm being there for a lot of people at once, and I'm trying to support a lot of people, because in my coaching business I help a lot of people through their healing journey. And when I'm supporting a lot of people at once, sometimes I start feeling this burnout. And before, now it's okay, now it's actually, I let it go, and it's efficient because it helps me become more efficient in my work. But previously, since I was trying to live in the expectations of everybody, and when they weren't treating me the same way, when they didn't care about my needs, about my desires, they didn't have a lot of respect about me, I started feeling resentful. And the more resentful I felt, eventually I started feeling burned out, because I realized it's impossible. Like, I cannot treat the expectations of everybody. It's fundamentally impossible. I'm not that, like, I'm not that intelligent. I'm not that efficient. I cannot do it. It's not, this is not, I'm not capable to do it. And so this is the moment when I realized, okay, it's fine if I don't meet the expectations of everybody. I can be me, you can be you, and we can go our separate ways. It's okay. We don't have to all like each other, right? It's okay to dislike some people. It's not necessarily something wrong. So it's okay if other people don't like you and if you're rejected sometimes. It's perfectly fine. It's actually the most perfect thing you can accept, that it's okay for others to reject you, because only then you can become authentic. So anyways, going forward, so now we've covered that anxious people pleasing, people who are people pleasers, they're anxious, they have low self-worth, they're resentful. A lot of times I also felt lonely. This is another sign. So loneliness. Why loneliness? Well, because a lot of people pleasers, a lot of us, we crave deeper connection, deeper intimacy. We crave like deep, honest conversations, meaningful conversations. But since we are always so caught up into meeting the expectations of everybody, then we feel lonely even though we exert a lot of effort to be liked by everybody. So this is another sign. Burnout. Again, this we covered this. Lack of boundaries. This is huge. This is huge, my friend. So a lot of people pleasers, they don't have any boundaries because they assume that setting your boundaries would be too much. It's like other people won't accept my boundaries. I will be too much for them. And I don't want to cause them any disturbances, any discomfort. So I better not speak my boundaries. But if you keep behaving like that, if you keep doing that, well, everybody will just step over you and you always feel unfulfilled. So if you've noticed that, well, it's congratulations. It's a powerful sign that you're healing. And if you need help with setting boundaries, I have these three questions healthy boundaries framework. It's a really powerful tool that I've used with more than 50 people already to completely transform their relationship dynamics. And I offer it for free now. You can check it out through the links in the description by entering your email. And in that, it's like a 3-page long document explaining a process that you can try to eradicate yourself, like eradicate any codependent relationships that you create since you don't have boundaries. So lack of boundaries is another sign. It's the 6th sign. Now, sometimes you might feel also disconnected. This is another sign. It's like on the surface, you pretend to be connected to everybody because you try to act in alignment with what they expect of you. But since this is not always authentic, and sometimes you're doing things which you do not like things that you do not accept necessarily, that are not in your value system, that are not authentic for you, well, you start feeling disconnected by others, even though on the surface they like you and you make them like you through people pleasing. But again, this is another sign that you might feel disconnected. You also might have negative self-image. I honestly did. Like for such a long time, I had a really low self-worth and negative self-image of myself because, well, it's basically my worth was dependent on the acceptance of others. And if others didn't accept me, this meant that I did something wrong and I'm a bad person, and nobody liked me, and it's not fair, and it's pointless because I cannot do anything about it. In the last 20 seconds, what I said, these are some of the limiting beliefs that I was holding. So maybe your self-image, which is organized around these beliefs, is like it's not healthy, it's negative because you're trying to fit the image of everybody and not live authentically in alignment with your own dreams and desires. A lot of people pleasers going forward, another sign is that they feel lost. And of course, like this is obvious, but they seek validation, right? So it's like if I'm not validated by others for what I do, even though what I do is inspiring for me, it feels genuinely, authentically inspiring. If it's not validated by others, it's wrong. And I will need to seek the validation of others. So because this is what I relate success to. Validation is success to me. This is again a flawed belief system that a lot of people pleasers hold. So seeking validation, this is a behavioral pattern and a sign again for a lot of people pleasers. Feeling lost. Well, because why lost? Well, because think about it. If you try to please everybody and fit in the expectations of everybody, you have no clue who you are. I've had this moment in my life after one relationship that actually started my awakening journey, in which I realized, because I basically lost myself for this girl that I was with. And then at the end of that, at some point I wanted more space because I started feeling suffocated by it. But I didn't have the courage to ask for it because I knew that if I asked for more space, since we were so attached to one another, she would feel rejected by that, and I didn't want to cause her negative feelings. And so I decided to withdraw my attention, awareness, and love and affection for her without saying it, without stating it transparently and clearly, so that she breaks up with me. And actually, when she broke up with me, this is the moment when I felt betrayed and abandoned, and it didn't make any sense. Now, I shared this story again in the channel previously, but this experience, it completely broke my whole sense of self And I realized if this is something that, if this happens in my life, if I have the intention for her to break up with me, she does. And when she does, I feel betrayed and abandoned about it. I have no clue who I am. And then since that, my awakening started, my awakening journey, my searching, seeking, so on and so forth. But yeah, feeling lost, this is another huge sign. And was, but not least, a lot of people pleasers, they are really self-critical. When they don't meet the expectations of others, they think that they did something wrong. And so that's why they start criticizing themselves. And now, obviously, this is not healthy because it's not possible. Think about it for a moment. Take some time to think about it. Can you meet the expectations of two people in the same room who have different expectations of you? Can you do that at the same time for both of them? If the answer to that question is no, and if you think that you did something wrong, if you can't do that because you're trying the impossible, and then you start criticizing yourself for that, it's a waste of time. You're trying something impossible. It's not possible to work. You cannot do it because these people have different needs, different expectations, and you cannot like please both of them. And so when you don't please one of them, you start feeling that you did something wrong and then start criticizing. And obviously this gets you nowhere. So anyways, like these signs, and I'll read them once again, all of them. Feeling anxious, having low self-worth, feeling resentful, feeling lonely, feeling burnout constantly, lack of boundaries, feeling disconnected from others, having negative self-image, feeling lost, seeking validation, and being self-critical to yourself are huge signs that you have awakened that you're a people pleaser. And even if this doesn't sound like a really sexy thing per se, it's powerful, and I want to congratulate you on that. Because the moment you realize that is the moment you start healing. And now, if you need support with that, you can always, again, schedule a free relationship alignment session, and I would love to support you along that journey. And also, stay tuned for the next series of this video in which I will share some of the gifts that a recovering people pleaser embodies that maybe you also realize within yourself. You'll discover within yourself. And if you do, well, again, congratulations. But even if you realize some of these more negative patterns and traits, it's perfectly fine. Because the moment you acknowledge them is the moment you can start taking responsibility. So I congratulate you for that. And thank you for staying with me. This was everything I wanted to share. I trust you found this video to be helpful, my friend. If this is the case, like it, comment down below. Let me know what's your experience with people pleasing. Subscribe to the Soulful Relationships channel if you're new to it. I'll be creating a lot of more content like that will support you on your healing and self-awareness journey. So if you're excited about these topics, I would love to see you around. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. See you around in the next video. I love you, my friend.